Okay, so hi, folks. I'm Lou Martin. This is my Awakened Spirits podcast, and I've managed to cajole, seduce, and charm my lovely friend Kyra Finley into chatting with me and sharing her amazing story. Kyra, how are you today, my dear?
Oh, I'm doing so great. Yeah, life is good. Feeling super
I,
grateful
I
to be
should think so. If you are not doing well, I don't know what well looks like, you know?
here. I'm for those who don't know, I'm blessed to be on Kauai right now, and
Yes.
it's literally just paradise.
Kauai, Hawaii. Yes. How long have you been there?
Let's see, I guess about 4 months, right at four
Okay.
months. I came in January to do an
Right.
intensive with my astrology teacher.
Okay.
Um, and basically it was actually really magical. I was sitting on the North Shore. I'd been here for like 3 or 4 days, and I was like, I feel like I just need to live here for just a little while.
That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I could really feel it. Like it's like something in my body was like, I need to come here to unwind. And, at the time I was still going through a lot of um, symptoms from the trauma that I went through, and a lot was coming up. It was a really hard
Sure.
season. So I was sitting there and I was like, I just need to come here because there's something in this land that's just, it just holds
Oh
you.
God. Oh yeah.
So I had that thought, and I intentionally was like, okay, I'm going to be grateful that I'm here now, and I'm going to just like really drop into gratitude and be present, and soul, spirit, like if that's in my highest good, then you make it happen.
Yeah.
And I literally got home that night, and my teacher had texted me and said, have you ever thought about living here?
Bobbing.
And it was perfect. She goes to out of town for 6 months, and so basically I'm staying in her house while she's gone. And
Oh my. Oh my.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just been incredible.
Wonderful. Can we know your astrology teacher's name? Is that
Oh yeah, her name is Deborah Silverman.
okay? Good to
Yeah,
know. We'll
yeah,
share the joy. Great.
she's amazing. Highly recommend,
Yeah,
100%, 1000%.
I
Uh,
believe it.
yeah, I've really learned so much from her and from astrology and Gene Keys, and yeah, that's been a profound part of my journey. Is I was thinking about it this morning actually. Like I think there's something about the systems of astrology and Gene Keys specifically because they pull from the stars.
Yeah.
Um, that it's really unique in that it allows us to know our unique vibration on the planet
Yeah.
right now and what we came to do in
Yeah.
this incarnation.
Yeah.
And in the process of like knowing ourselves really well and being able to consciously work with the energy of the stars, with the energy of the planets, um it feels like that really empowers us to be able to fulfill our role at this time. And that's what the age of Aquarius is all about, is like everybody in their place serving the whole.
Great.
But if you don't know what
Can
your
you tell
place
people,
is,
yeah, can you tell people what the gene keys are if they're not familiar with it?
yes. Oh my goodness. How to describe Gene Keys? Gene Keys is a magical, mystical, alchemical system that Richard Rudd basically, I would say, received as a transmission. He had a 3-day mystical encounter where he was like completely in touch with the field. And he would say, he said it time and time again, like I could just know anything I wanted to know. I could ask any question and get any answer. And he had that experience. And then I think it was like, I don't know, 10 years or something where he like studied and anyway, just kind of let it sit. And then eventually the transmission like came all the way through. And basically it's a combination of the I Ching, human design, astrology, so many other different systems. And he's managed to really help you identify your gene keys, because the 64 hexagrams in the I Ching correlate with the 64 codons that we have in our DNA. And so
Amazing.
in each
Amazing.
yeah, in each incarnation you have, I think it's 11 that are like highlighted for you.
Okay.
Um and it's a really profound way to intentionally work with your shadows and also concentrate. Like there's 3 stages to each, or 3 frequencies for each gene key. There's the shadow, the gift, and the city. And as your vibration rises, you come from the shadow into the gift, into the city.
Right. And sorry, hon. City is SIDDHE. It's not city.
Yes,
CITY, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Which means a gift, a blessing, a gift. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like your cities are like your divine superpowers. Like you're one of the Avengers,
Beautiful.
like, what you got in your backpack.
Yes. Yes.
And so, yeah, it's been really profoundly transformational for me. It's how I transitioned from the church into spirituality and into a much more, broad worldview, because he does
Wonderful.
such a beautiful job in the book of wrapping in all the different traditions. And
Wow.
so it really gave me a structure and a bridge when I was coming out of what I would say now is a cult.
Sure.
And,
Yes. Bless you. Bless
yeah.
you. Yeah.
And so it gave me that structure and also gave me a way to really alchemize my shadows, which is a lifetime process, but
Sure. Let me just jump in 1 second. That's beautiful. So as you and I were saying, Kyra, before we started, we hadn't spoken in at least a year, and you had the experience of 2 spiritual journeys basically before you were led to Hawaii. Was it in Peru and Costa Rica were you talking about?
yes. Yeah.
Can you, because I definitely have not spoken to you since you've been to Peru. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Woof. Oh yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yes. See,
okay.
I'm like a hound dog.
Yeah, I love it. So I went to Costa Rica last September. That was first. So I'll tell you about that one first.
Right.
Talk about coming out of the church. In my journey out of the church, I think we talked about this the last time. I sat with like a bit of plant medicine. And that really like opened me up so much. And part of the awakening that I was having, and I think we may have even touched on this, was around my sexuality.
Okay.
And
yeah.
And really all that the church communicates to you about that, and just like taking that power back for myself. It's not an area that I've ever felt empowered in. And also there was sexual abuse in my past. And so there was also a lot of healing to do there. So
yeah,
I say that to say, like, the retreat in Costa Rica was essentially I would really just call it like embodied manifesting, but we were using our sexual energy and our self-pleasure in like ceremonial spaces together to manifest our dreams.
My.
So
okay. I can imagine what must have been like. Yeah.
It was
powerful.
Profound. And that's why, that's why I was like, oh, here we go. Cause like we're going right into the deep end.
Well, I appreciate your courage to share all this with us, Kyra. Thank you.
I wouldn't do anything that, I think this is true. I really don't want to do anything in my life that I'm not willing to share.
That's still courageous, I have to say.
That implies shame.
Well,
so yeah.
Getting over it,
Yeah. So anyway, like it was wow, I can't even describe everything that happened there. I mean, I was just coming out of the church, so was still a virgin. And I'm in a room with 30 people self-pleasuring. It is very, very beautiful and ceremonial. Like we're all under our own covers. Nobody's paying attention to you. It's really about you and magic.
Okay.
But it was a bit mind-blowing, just like,
it doesn't get any more vulnerable than that, I'd say.
Exactly. And yet I would say so many of us said after we had 2 ceremonies, and then there were also like, there was breath work involved, breath work sessions. And it was like a 6-day retreat. And I swear it was like as potent as ayahuasca. Like, there's just so much happening.
spectral energy is no joke. You know, it is power.
It is no joke. And every single one of us said it feels like humans have been doing this together for like millennia. And we've just forgotten, and we've made it shameful. And I mean, we were all gathered in a room dreaming into the future of the species and how we survive, you know?
Well, thank you. On behalf of the species, thank you.
You're welcome. Because it's questionable.
Well, it's yes, the jury's out, as we say.
Yeah. So we were like putting all of our energy into like the future of humanity. And can you, I mean, just imagine like if humans, the woman that I went with is Emily Fletcher. Again, highly recommend her as a teacher and a guide, and anybody who's curious, she's all about it and does such a great job of making it very approachable. But imagine if we all had if we all had mastery of that energy within ourselves to create intentionally.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's creative energy. We simply use it for release most of the time, but it's actually meant to be used for creation. So that was my trip to Costa Rica. And
you bet. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, man, it was amazing. I told them, had like my first like really good orgasm of my life. And I told
that's what I was hoping. That's what I was hoping to hear. Yes, that's great, honey. Good. Fantastic.
And I told them the morning after, I was like, thanks, guys. You were like my first, you know?
Yes. Well, let me, Kyra, give me 1 second. That's so beautiful. Bless your heart. You know, what I want people to understand. So you and I we met a few years ago here in Ireland, and then had this lovely connection, and it's wonderful to see you again and share all your breakthroughs and your success and your new home and your, conquering one thing after another. So you talked about I think we've done 2 other interviews. I'm not sure. I know we've done 1. Well, you and I have had many chats, I'm saying. So I know you've been on this journey from a really repressive, cult-like, fundamental religious, house, home, and church and all that, and had a lot of stuff to heal with. I believe it was your mom, if that's all right to say that. Okay, so you've come just through all of that. And the last time we did a live talk, you were talking about making the shift in healing through plant medicine, doing a lot of experiences with plant medicine, so people can look at that. And now here you are, with all this great news and these great breakthroughs. And it's just so exciting to hear all this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I guess to give anybody who hasn't seen the other conversation, basically my mom was a one-woman cult, literally. Like she was that's actually a coach / guide of mine recently pointed that out. She was like, do you realize that you were in a one-person cult for 34 years? And I was like, oh, that explains so much.
Yes, honey, truly. And how strong you are to get through that, sweetheart. Bless you.
Oh, thank you. And then, coach,
you're one of my heroes. Absolutely.
Well, I just say that to say, like, I was really in systems of suppression and control until about 40, 41 years old. I'm 44 now.
Right.
So it's really just been in the last 2 or 3 years that I have felt like I'm really coming out of that. And it is amazing how much the programming gets in, and the layers and everything that have to be undone from that. But it's made me very passionate about, I can smell out control, I can sniff out control in a situation like so quickly.
Sure.
And I've really come to a place of being super, super grateful for my history and my past and all of it. But yeah, on the journey out of that, I really discovered through Gene Keys, which led me to plant medicine, which somehow I ended up, in Costa Rica. I will say, I think because of Gene Keys and just some other things that started happening in my life, I started getting really pulled to the system of Tantra, which I know is associated so much with sexuality, but it's actually about uniting the divine masculine and the divine feminine within and experiencing wholeness. And that's really what drew me to this work is, I'm a writer. I'm mainly working on fantasy fiction right now. And it's a project that I've had going for like 5 years. It's my baby. It's the thing that I've told my friends, like, if I am on my deathbed and I have written these stories, let me put it this way. If I'm on my deathbed and I haven't written these stories, that's going to be the thing I regret. It's like, it's that thing for me. And so actually this journey started because I felt stifled in my own creativity. And I wanted to be able to harness my energy to create. And so much of that comes through being in tune with your body, being in tune with the energies within you. It's crazy how they can fight each other. Everything that we see out in the external world that's happening between the feminine and the masculine and patriarchy and all of that. What I don't think we understand is that that's imprinted in our cells. Like, we're living that because it's what's on the inside of everyone.
Yeah. It's the computer program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether even if you are awake and don't subscribe to it, like, I found that on my own journey, when I woke up and I realized what patriarchy is and I realized what religion is, and, it's like, wow, okay, this is bullshit, and it's really easy to make the mental switch, but there's programming in our cells. There's programming this is why I love Gene Keys, because it talks about our DNA and how the history of everything that's happened in the world is stored in our DNA. So I'm not just carrying my ancestral story, I'm carrying the story of humanity.
Sure. We all are. Yeah.
And to a certain degree, we all have to heal that within ourselves, heal that split, and put those energies, which I wish we had different names for, because they're not really man and woman, they're
no, masculine, feminine is good.
Yeah. And when we reunite those energies and we bring them back into a right relationship, it just makes so much possible.
Yeah. My God, I mean, again, Kyra, I don't know a lot of people that have made this journey that you've made. You really are blazing a trail, my friend. And, now you're bringing that into your writing, as you said, as well, and that will be a wonderful thing when those stories get published and read by the world. Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. And
Sure.
this technology, I mean, really, again, not to harp on this, but it is something I'm like really, really passionate about, because I started discovering, as I was coming out of the church, discovering the way that the goddess had really been banned and burned. And, we know about the witch burnings and all of that kind of thing. But even before that, the priests of Yahweh were the first ones to start kicking the goddess out of the temples. So
it's howled against the goddess for thousands of years,
exactly.
In every form.
She was the one that held the knowledge of how to work with our kundalini, our sexual energy, our creative life force through ecstatic rituals. I mean, and this is the thing, like the Eleusinian mysteries back in the day that actually seeded the civil, like they're the people that went to that are the ones that established the Western civilization that we're living in right now. But they went and got the wisdom in these ecstatic rituals that involved plant medicine and all the stuff that they ended up saying we shouldn't do. It's really weird. It's like, how?
Well, yes. I mean,
like, how did we end up here?
It's called hypocrisy, darling. And you do one thing behind closed doors, as they're still doing, and you tell the masses what you want them to believe, and you're saying it very well. There was a book about drugs and the Eleusinian mysteries. I just read a bit of and heard some interviews, which was very good. The name of which is escaping me. But yes, all of the many of the visions that people had, of course, came through Tantra or Kundalini or, hallucinogens in one form or another. And it doesn't mean they were any less real. These are doorways into these upper dimensions that we were, kicked out of or fell out of with the fall from grace, however you want to look at that. And as we know, you and I, we've come full circle now, and it really is the return of the goddess and all these sacred practices as well that are liberating us. And, I followed Richard Rudd a bit and looking into the gene keys, and there's also a guy named Robert Comber who, along with Robert Edward Grant, Comber has written a book called The Lost Octave, and which is also talking about all these things. Do you know him?
I've heard of the book. I haven't read it yet, though.
Yeah, you should see his interviews. I would recommend. Pam Gregory and Heather Emsworth and others have chatted with him, and I've heard 3 or 4. And I'm also a fan of Robert Edward Grant. We're getting all this information, from spirit through these divine teachers and these revelations that are coming down, because we're ready to share this information with the planet, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I when I went to the Lionsgate event recently with Matthias de
Yeah.
Stefano,
There we go.
Yeah, that was one of the things that he talked about.
Perfect. I'd forgotten we were going to talk about this.
Yeah. Wow, that was
quite a day, huh?
I have to just give him a shout out, because he basically just taught for 2.5 hours, and just in speaking, like we're talking right now, I came home trembling. Like I basically, what I'm saying is something energetic happened just in his teaching, and I was like, "You are a master,"
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
He was doing an energetic transmission the whole time.
Sure.
But one of the things that he really pointed out, and I'm sure he said it in interviews as well, is that, well, one thing he said, I have to put this out here. He was like, we all as humans, we talk about how we have to take care of the planet. We have to save the planet. We have to take care of her. And he was like, I don't know if you know this, but she's had 6 major extinctions. She started them herself. She's shaken off all life. Nothing was left. And she's come back. He's like, she's fine.
Yeah. I'm not worried about it. Yeah.
Exactly. But he said, but the thing is, she's ready to expand. And so we are the cells of a planet who, I get goosebumps because this is what I'm writing. I'm trying to write how we expand.
Okay.
But he said, basically, we're the cells of a planet who is looking to expand. She is a mother cell. Yeah. So there's this, and I've also been recently in some ceremonies with a Hawaiian teacher here. His name is Keone Hanalei. Okay. He's been interviewed by Heather and Pam.
I've seen him. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Small world. Yeah. Yeah. He's impressive as well. Yes.
So much wisdom is coming at us, right? And all of these like hidden codes, things that have been hidden for thousands of years.
Thousands of years, yes.
But he also has talked about how like the previous universe has imported a legacy and we're getting ready to export a legacy. And so you've got these 2 teachers that are talking about us being basically the cells of the planet who are going to export something to the rest of the galaxy, the universe.
Yes. Well, Ra calls it the harvest. Law of one.
Yes. I've listened to that as well. I loved that.
Yeah, me too.
And so really, like, the question is, what are we going to export? And Matthias said it. He said, we can either be the cancer that splits and eats the energy of the next cell, or we can be the medicine. And I feel like all of these ancient teachings are coming back for us right now. And all of this is like being enlightened because like we've got so much help. We've got so much help. There's like so many beings out there that are like, guys, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah. I feel you. Yes, babe. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
This is also what Patricia Cota-Robles has been teaching us and having us work on. She just completed her 6-day last World Congress on Illumination, the 38th, and she's been teaching since 1968. And she and her co-creator Addie Lamborn, who I'm also in classes with, who's also an amazing mystic. All these downloads from the solar flares, and there's like a system of a dozen suns that go back to the creator and things like this, and we're downloading these energies again into our DNA, and taking on our fifth dimensional solar crystal light body and opening up our 12 chakras. And there's the 12 planets and the 12 strand DNA, etc. All of this. So there's so much is getting downloaded to all of us.
Yeah, and it's coming through, and yet it can be so easy to get so discouraged because we're all so stuck in our own individual shit
Stuff.
Still,
Yeah,
like we're still processing ancestral trauma, and that was actually a lot of what Matthias talked about, is being stuck in this, like basically time was broken. And he's talked about it in an interview with I forgot his name, but anyway, he basically, if you don't think of time as linear, right, recognizing that the future was actually what was created first because there was no past, and essentially he has been saying that the Hadron Collider in Switzerland,
yes.
when they started doing experiments, like if you split apart an atom, you get an atomic bomb. What do you think happens when you split apart a particle? And he was like, when they started doing that, it broke time. And that's actually what's like rippling back all the way back. Like he was like they did that. I mean, this, it's a story, so like take it for what it's worth. He's like, they did that, and all of a sudden the dinosaurs were like, oh fuck, there's a meteor, like we're done. So it's a really interesting thing to like contemplate, like if that happened, but actually it's sending ripples back. And his point, the reason I bring that up is his point was, that's why every time we keep trying to move forward, we keep getting pulled back by our ancestors, or I need to heal all this past trauma, or I need to do all of this. And essentially like the long or the short version of like the 2.5 hours of teaching.
Yeah.
It's really about coming back to the present and your breathing. It's so simple.
Sure. I hear that. Yeah. We've been doing a lot of that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because there's no way we're going to ever figure out all the ins and I mean, I have experienced this in my own life. There's no way we're ever going to figure out all the ins and outs of my trauma and how it affected me, and how, what happened to my grandmother and what happened to my mother and, my dad and his side, and we get so lost in that.
Sure, honey. I mean, can I just interject the word forgiveness?
Yes.
That's the magic formula that helps us free ourselves of the guilt, shame, blame game, that we're all trying to wake up from. Yes. But just to come back to time for a second, what my teacher Lazarus says, actually the future creates the present against the backdrop of the past. And so what we're intending, what we're expecting, what we're, vibrationally calling forth, like your sex magic experience and all that, or tantra magic, etc. Fantastic. This is how, our emotional body is 80% of our energy. So the thoughts are just kind of, for me, the rudder on the ship, and the emotions are the wind in the sails. Yeah. And that's where we're going. So yes, we're all getting just so much support, as you said. I feel the same thing, honestly. Despite my, my ups and downs, which I was sharing with you before we started here, I do feel that sense of the wind at our backs and the door wide open, and things really moving forward. So it's, it's very, very, we're being re-empowered is my word for it.
Yes, I love that.
Thank you.
And it's so funny that you bring up forgiveness, because that's like, I mean, obviously it's been a huge theme in my own life.
Human race, my friend. Join the human race. You're not alone with any of it, you know.
But I've also seen in plant medicine journeys, and in several in particular, one really strong one with Wachuma, which is by far my favorite medicine.
I've never heard of it.
It's sometimes called San Pedro. No,
I've heard of that.
Sorry.
It's peyote.
San Pedro. Yeah, it is called San Pedro sometimes. It's not peyote. Peyote's different.
Oh, okay.
But it is called San Pedro sometimes. It's
Okay.
a cactus, just like peyote, but they are two different things.
Okay.
But anyway, I was in a ceremony, and literally, I'm going to try to put this into words.
Oh, I like it already. I love it already, Kyra. Yeah.
It started with I was asked to be a conduit for forgiveness for my lines.
Yeah.
I was asked to stand in for my mother's line and my father's line. And they were like, will you basically just wash all this shit through you and allow it to be cleansed? And I was like, okay. So I just sat there and, like, you know, stuff's happening and I'm making funny noises and, you know.
Yeah. Feeling feelings. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just washing through me, you know?
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
And then later in the ceremony, it expanded, and it was like I was feeling Mother Earth do that for all of us.
Beautiful.
There was this flood of, like, a literal flood of forgiveness that was being extended to us from her.
Yeah.
And just completely washing us clean of everything we've done, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Well, doesn't it make such sense, sweetheart? Because sorry for interrupting, but that's what mother love is. You know, it's unconditional acceptance.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't an agenda and pushing and shoving and kicking and screaming. It's like, I accept you, I support you, I love you, I forgive you. You know.
Well, and the beautiful thing, I said this to a friend recently, the beautiful thing about forgiveness, and this is what I felt from her so much. That's why I'm in love with the earth. I really am. I see her as
I'm a big fan myself. It's quite a thing. Yeah.
And truly, like, that's where we're all evolving to, is to the point where we can be our own planets or our own worlds. Like, so she's actually a soul, you know, which to me, I'm like, wow, you're epic.
Yeah.
But what I really felt from her was this thing of, like, true forgiveness does not care who did what or who made the mistake or who caused the problems. It just wants to make it right. And there was just this force of just making it right. And then I also really felt her holding herself back, waiting for us to catch up.
Wow. Well, that's very deep. Yeah, this is the Course in Miracles that actually says that the pain is the illusion and love is the only truth.
Yeah.
And forgiveness is the bridge back from the illusion to the truth, and that's the truth that sets us free.
Yeah.
But yes, the only way to know that is to completely surrender everything that isn't that.
Yeah, it's so true. Non-attachment. You know, it's really about the stories that we tell ourselves. You know, it's why I'm so passionate about story, because I mean, if you look at it, our myths, right? Our mythology and all the stories that we've told throughout history, they define the way that we perceive ourselves. But
completely,
it's so easy to change the story.
It's so what? Sorry?
So easy to change the story.
Yeah, we're changing it all the time, and it's you know, I love what you're saying, sweetheart. I'm completely with you. Authenticity, authority, authorship. You know, it's the same thing. You know, I am my I am presence. You know, it's creating the reality. You know, casting a spell, saying a prayer, blessing a situation, forgiving a situation. You know, all of those are, you know, incantations that we empower with our words, but they're really, you know, retelling the story, as you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I've noticed in my own life, like it's the meaning, for instance, like the sexual abuse that I mentioned, like I have for many years given that the meaning of like, oh, well, that means I'm fucked up and this is going to be hard, and
That's an adequate description for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And really, like the first 42 years of my life were really hard.
There it is. I know what this is. I've
Yeah.
defined it, and it's fulfilled its purpose. Yeah.
I have lived that experience, and I
Yes,
would
bless
say
your heart. Bless
it's
you.
really just been in the last, well, really probably since I went to Costa Rica, where I really started to feel things open up for me. And it's been a hard road. Like I got home and I crashed hard, so like when you have these big expansive experiences, if you're not used to, if there's not a really strong foundation to to the higher vibration, you're gonna plummet,
Yeah, baby. I call it the post-workshop blues.
Exactly. It's such a thing.
Woo!
Such a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got home from that and I was like sore and sick. I had the flu for a while, and it was like, wow.
Of course.
And everybody who goes through these expansive experiences tells you basically the same thing. Like there's
absolutely, it's a guaranteed certainty for sure. You expand, now you're going to contract. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's beautiful. And again, it's that just the way you said it, you expand and you contract. We can have such an attachment to the expansion that we demonize the contraction.
Sure, or judge ourselves, or
anything. Like, what's wrong? Why can't I hold this? Or
right.
But I've really experienced. It's really, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this, because I actually said I wanted to reflect on the last 2 years as part of my birthday. My birthday was a couple of days ago, and I wanted to reflect on the last 2 years.
And happy birthday to you, my dear friend. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Because there have been so many of those expansive experiences, and it's easy for me to just remember the crashes, afterwards.
Sure.
But my point in that is I really do feel like I'd say in the last, probably since Costa Rica started at least, I've just found peace with the past. And like I said, like, before my history made me think, oh, I'm just so messed up. I have finally found this, like, wait a second. Just because this happened to me doesn't mean that I'm screwed up. Like, I'm actually defining myself right now in this present moment, and I get to say who I am and what I'm capable of. And
that's right, darling. Yeah,
and
you get to define you.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful message.
God, yes, and I'm, again, what's coming to me, and I'm thrilled to hear all this, and I'm so proud of you. Honest to God, for your courage and your commitment. And, Michael Beckwith used to say, the pain pushes until the vision pulls, isn't that a good one? Yeah. And we can go through all these, breakthroughs and have these mystical experiences, and then you still have to, chop wood and carry water, and you're like, wow, all that, and I just got a T-shirt. Is this how it worked? I didn't. The heavens didn't open up and take me to another dimension yet.
You mean I still have to human?
Right, I have to human. Oh, I'm going to borrow that. That's a beautiful one. I haven't heard that before. Yeah. But then old souls that we are, we go, no, Lou, you get to human. And isn't it wonderful that you got to suffer, and then you got to heal, and then you got to help somebody else learn about how to suffer and how to heal and how to look at it in a new way, if that was helpful, etc., if they were open to that. Yeah. But, the other thing that occurs to me, hon, and this is you have a better boundary, I think, with your mom than you've probably ever had, and that's a huge part of your recovery, I'd say, as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. We haven't talked in 5 years. So
Okay.
Really
so that. Yeah, there'll be women out there listening to this story who can relate to your experience, and men, of course. and want to hear that bit of wisdom from you as well. So I thank you for sharing that.
Well, actually, can I expound on that a little bit?
Like, of course, yes, I was tippy-toeing in the direction of where I was being called. So you go right ahead.
Yeah. Gosh, because I do run across this so often. There are so many, as you can imagine, you magnetize people similar to your vibration. So I have so many of my friends either have had issues with their parents, or they have run into narcissistic relationships, or, like,
it's very common. It's very common in the world.
Yeah. And I feel so blessed, honestly. I can really truly say this. I feel so blessed to have experienced what I did, because I can help so many people by saying, like, no, that's actually abuse. That's actually manipulation. That's actually emotional punishment. Like, this is what's happening.
Right.
But one thing that I really see, especially with daughters of narcissistic mothers or daughters of abusive mothers, is this perpetual guilt to stay in contact, or to like, she's my mom, I can't walk away.
Right.
And to be honest, although we haven't talked in 5 years, I even still visited every once in a while of like, should I reach out?
Right.
And one of the things that I have really come to know is that sometimes, like, I think there's two different kinds of souls, right? Like, there's the souls who need to learn compassion and they need to learn how to give to the other person. And then there are those that need to learn boundaries, and they need to learn to say no.
Yeah.
And so just for anybody out there who's like cycling around that, permission to say no. Like,
sure.
And again, that's where astrology comes in too, because like my rising sign is Aquarius. So that gives me a hint of the fact that like I'm meant to come out from old systems in this lifetime.
Right.
So there are things in your personal makeup that's going to help. I can't blanket say anything, but
no, that's very true.
It's a hard dynamic when it's your mom, but it's okay.
Yes, of course. I mean, guilt is never a good motivation for anything. It's the simple way to help us wake up. And what my guides say is guilt demands punishment. And so, when you come back to forgiveness again, I love myself, I accept myself, I forgive myself, I set myself free is the affirmation from my guides, for this, if it's helpful. And of course, Ho'oponopono, which was birthed in Hawaii, that's affected millions of people. I did a workshop with this gentleman, Dr. Hugh Len, before it became a big deal back in LA. But I want to come back to your Hawaiian shaman there in a second. But we really do have, again, particularly for women in this lifetime. This is what I want to say, Kyra. I am seeing all these beautiful, bright, courageous, spiritual, wise, eloquent, vulnerable young women all over the internet now, and they are just telling you which way is up and let's go, people, and it's like, wow, oh my God, this is so exciting. So, it really is the time of the divine feminine. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. It's time for her to come back, and then for there to be right relationship. Like, it's not about putting her back in charge, because it should never be that.
Right.
But it's like we're playing catch up. It's like, okay, this was like way down here, and so we've got to bring her back. And
yes.
And that's why for a while she's got to be really loud.
Well, she has to be respected and heard.
Yeah. By everyone. And that's the thing, I mean, to wrap in Keone, like the first ceremony that I did with him was about the return of the divine feminine and what that looks like. And so in the course of that, the course of that, we talked a great deal about what patriarchy actually is. And this was actually super, super, super helpful for me. Patriarchy, the way he defines it, is it was a response to a crisis. So we had the cataclysm, whatever that was. I
Right.
have to believe it had something to do with Atlantis and a flood.
Yeah.
But we had the cataclysm. He was like, and he basically explained, he's like, we were down to a point where there was like very little life left on this planet. And so we needed a system of control in that moment. Like we actually needed somebody to come in and be like, okay, this is how we're going to wrangle everything and make sure that we survive as a species.
Yeah.
But because we never let go, we didn't actually allow ourselves to process the trauma of that cataclysm.
Right. Well said.
Then we didn't let go of crisis mentality. And so
Exactly.
and so he basically was defining patriarchy as crisis mentality. Like it's what keeps us continually thinking that the world is ending,
That's right. Yes. No, that's well said. I love that. And that must be why they were showing me to come back to him and weave this into all of that. Because it's, it's fear-based thinking. When I talk to people about spirituality and metaphysics and my own life, a lot of times I hear them, ask me to be practical. And I'm like, okay, there's the patriarchy. It's the masculine left brain, logical, rational. There is no invisible power. There is no love or forgiveness. It's survival of the fittest and dog eat dog and war without end and all of that. Like you're saying, it's a fear-based paradigm that the phrase I want to share here from Lazarus is he says she's never left, but she's returning. And how that's happening, of course, to come full circle, like we're saying here, is the traumas and the dramas that we have lived through because of our limited but evolving consciousness, and all the help that we're being flooded with, as you said, so perfectly right now for everyone who's open to it, is that we can forgive and we can love and we can then open our hearts and open our lives to really be vulnerable and to really now write the story of a happy humanity, a fulfilling humanity where we can give and receive love, men and women together as equals with love and respect. And it doesn't have to be a battle for power or a battle over anything, I mean, again, the Hawaiians are incredibly sophisticated spiritual beings and all the indigenous cultures of the planet. I'd love for you to talk about Peru at some point, but take it wherever you like. Yeah.
Okay. Peru. I just want to put one thought in there to go.
Yeah, sure, please. It's a feast. Yes.
Just along the lines of like bringing back the divine feminine, I just want to say this as a woman. I believe that men have been just as wounded as women by the withdrawal of the feminine. They feel it just as much as we do. I know it's so easy to look at how women have been subjugated and and there is this real I have a real curiosity of like, wow, there's something about female sexuality and female power that is terrifying to someone, because there've just been so many ways of shutting it down. And at the same time, imagine being a father or a brother or an uncle and doing that to the women in your life or watching it happen to the women in your life.
Yes,
and then also having to shut down that energy within you.
Well, you've gone into a really dark part of the forest here with this, which is fine, so Addie Lamborn has just been talking about, that the darkness of the world is really being lifted, and she was saying that what we call evil or the darkness or, whatever names we want to give to that, everyone's got their favorites. This was part of the cosmic flaw of creation from the beginning. But that, like we're saying, because see, Patricia tells an amazing story. She says humanity actually and Mother Earth at some point decided to take on the darkness of other souls in our solar system because they weren't evolving and we wanted to help them evolve. And so in Patricia's story of creation, what's happening is we're shifting these two dimensions from the third to the fifth, which has never happened anywhere in creation before. And we're also, helping the dark spirits that have been a part of the history of the earth, like we're saying, the fall from grace, etc., to come back into the light. And this is why, humanity has such a pivotal role to play in the evolution of creation throughout the universe, and why all these beings are coming and helping us and watching us, because this has really never happened in this way before, where we were willing to sacrifice, if you will, so much of our own happiness for the sake of helping another part of creation heal its unconsciousness. And no one has paid a heavier price for that than the women of the earth. And now this is that time. I agree with what you're saying. The men have suffered from this too, but women's suffering is on a different level to me than the male suffering, just because of being the mother, being the lover, being so vulnerable, being the channel for Mother Earth. Woman is sacred, and the man needs to respect that, honor that, and support that. And if he doesn't, then he pays a price for that, as we have all done in this world.
Well, I've heard stories, just to piggyback on that, I've heard stories very similar of basically Gaia, Sophia, being willing to take in that patriarchal, unhealed masculine energy. So maybe it's in the form of souls who came, but same thing, like for the purpose of reconciling it. And
to heal it.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing that energy, which is honestly like a lot of what my stories are about.
It's great. It's great. Yeah.
So I do believe that to a certain extent. Like I believe that we're doing something here that's incredible. And will be a mother, will be a template for other civilizations. So
yeah. I think that's true too. I do. I think all of that is true, hon. Absolutely. So what did you get from the Peruvian experience?
Peru. My God. It was a 10-day, oh gosh, I got so much. It was a 10-day retreat, and I sat with Chuma 4 times, I think. So a lot. And actually, it was also my first time sitting with ayahuasca, which was a profound experience. I also got to take part in 3 Chullachacas, which is an Andean sweat lodge, which I was terrified of, but it's the most amazing thing in the whole entire world. I wish I could do it every weekend because it just like resets your body. But I would say spiritually and wow. I mean, my first ceremony with Wachuma, I was literally on the side of a mountain laying by a stream. And it's actually ironic, like everything that we're talking about, I felt like I was feeling the battle of patriarchy against the feminine, just down through the ages. Like I was just being shown all kinds of stuff,
You probably were, honey. You probably were. Yes.
And I was just like, wow, this really sucks.
Right.
I could feel both sides. And then my second ceremony, very, very similar themes. Like just as we went into the medicine, I was kind of shown how my own heart was closed. And that was tying to the masculine. And I was shown like, oh, there's like this wall against the masculine in me. And so I kind of was going in to like work on that. And again, found myself in a position of feeling the whole thing. Like it just expanded to where it was like, this is not about me. I'm feeling their side. I'm feeling the men. I'm feeling the women. I'm feeling the betrayal. I was feeling the grief of the women. And I actually, at the end of that ceremony, I finally went back inside because I was struggling so much. Sorry, I have to put that down. I finally went back inside because I was struggling so much to move it through my like it was just like something was wanting to be released and I couldn't release it. So I went in and I asked the ceremony leader, I was like, can you please come help me? And so she came and helped me, and she worked on me with some stones and some crystals, and she was like helping me let it go. And all of the sudden, I just started wailing. Like,
Right.
I have never cried in my entire
Right.
life. And it literally felt like the grief of every woman who has ever been subjugated. And
Yes.
and
Bless
it
you.
was so healing in that grief, I had to let go of the anger
Right.
in order to get to the grief.
Sure.
And so I let go of the anger, and then the grief came through me, and I cried so much, like my abdomen hurt. Like, and it was truly beautiful, because one of my friends, my brother, came over to me after the end, and he was like, thank you so much. He said, you released for all of us.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
I don't know if you saw it, but it started raining when you started crying. And
Perfect.
it was
Perfect.
like you were releasing for Gaia.
Yeah.
And
You were releasing for Gaia, darling, of course. Oh, it's
thank
55:55 when you
hey,
say
hey.
that on the timer there. Just, yeah.
So
Can I share a story? Can I
yeah.
share a quick story with you? Yeah. No, I want to hear the rest of this, of course. This is brilliant. This is why I kept getting guided back to talk about Peru, I can see, for you to share that for sure. Lazarus, I went to many workshops in LA with Lazarus in the 80s and 90s, and they did one on the goddess. And I had no relationship to the goddess in my journey up until that point. And I don't even remember the workshop. What I remember is what you just described, is for 2 days in this workshop, I cried like a baby the entire time. I wept like a heartbroken child the entire time. And I'll never forget it. And I've had many other of those moments as well. I mean, this is being the shaman for all of us in this lifetime, and being the doorway for people to open their hearts and be real and come into their bodies and all of that. So that's just a beautiful story. I just want to give you my little window on that. It's an initiation for everyone. We are the children of the mother on planet Earth. And until we weep those tears of healing and grief and forgiveness, we haven't really landed yet, you know?
Yeah. Well, and the beautiful thing that because I experienced 2 or 3 moments like that after I got home. Like, it kept coming. I remember one time where I was literally just sitting watching Frozen 2. Like, I'm just minding my own business, you know? And all of a sudden, I'm like heaved over on my side, and I could feel it was like somebody had cut off my arm. And
Right.
I was grieving it. I was like, I'm not whole. I can't. And it was so connected to power
Okay.
and how, especially the feminine, the women,
Yes.
they have been disempowered. And it was like,
Yeah.
man, I've been so cut off from this piece of me, and I can't find it. And I'm grieving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
I
Powerful.
had like several of those moments after I got home. You know, it kept going. And
Sure.
what I'll say is, I think that it's important for those of us who do feel that, especially, you know, highly sensitive or shaman or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I feel it's
Empath.
important for those of us who feel those vibrations and who are willing to be a channel, willing to be a conduit, because not everybody's going to do that emotional release.
Right.
You
Right.
know? And so there are those of us that just kind of have to stand in the gap sometimes and be like, I'm going to cry everybody's tears. Which takes a lot to allow it to move through you without getting attached to the story. That was what I noticed after Peru, was like, oh, I can actually just let this energy go through me and express itself. And this doesn't have to have anything to do with my past. It doesn't have to connect to a past life. It doesn't have to connect to anything. I'm literally just crying tears for someone who needs them to have them cry. You know?
Yeah, honey. Yeah. Well, you're being in service to the planet and humanity. Yeah. Bless you, darling. You know, I mean, this is why I love the indigenous people and listen to them with respect and awe. You know, I just heard a great 2.5 hour conversation between the Lakota lawyer Chase Iron Eyes who I first heard about from the Standing Rock thing back in 2016. And he's involved with Bobby Kennedy's campaign. And he was on with Aubrey Marcus, and who's also a serious student of the mystic and has great respect for the plants and the tribal elders. And the two of them were in and out of tears the whole time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's so
it's
true.
deep. Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew this when I was there, but the Kundalini energy of the planet is in the Sacred Valley right now in Peru. So, talk about an act. I mean, and it's I think it moved from India to Peru, like.
Well, yeah, this is Drunvalo Melchizedek talked about this.
Yep.
It moved from the Himalayas, from Tibet. Yeah, you're right, to Lake Titicaca, I think is what he was saying.
Yeah.
But
which
maybe, Yeah. I mean, we give it to you. Absolutely. I won't argue with you. It's funny. Drunvalo is another one. I don't know if you've ever studied him at all or read his books, Secret of the Flower of Life and all that. He's quite the mystic and quite amazing, and has traveled the world and worked with the native elders, all over the planet.
Yeah.
And has done the same kind of work here, which is, building that bridge between the modern man, quote unquote, and, the indigenous people that are holding, the heart of the earth for all of us, basically.
Yeah. Well, and I've read I'm reading his book, Serpent of Fire. Is that it?
Serpent of Light.
Serpent of Light.
Yes.
That's been my first exposure to him, but
well, that's cosmic, because I just brought that. I was just going to mention that a minute ago, and I just brought that up in my morning prayers here a couple days ago, and I hadn't thought about it in a long time. So it's great that you're reading that, because that will also really help you with the path that you're on right now. Speaking of Kundalini, there's an angel channel who I like, a woman named Sarah Hall, and she does weekly and monthly readings from the angels. Yeah, we'll let you go here in a minute. And she was saying that we're going to see, since the full moon of Monday, the first super moon of 4 super moons in a row to end off 2024, we're going to see a massive Kundalini awakenings. And I never heard her say anything like that before. So keep that in. Yeah.
Wow. Well, and before we end, I just wanted to share one other thing about Peru.
Yeah, please.
So my third ceremony, the fourth one, I was on the top of Machu Picchu, which is, sounds amazing, but I actually don't think I'll do medicine next time I go there, because you don't need it.
Yes, meant to be rather powerful. I've not been there yet, but I hear that. Yeah.
I was energetically fucked.
Yeah, that'll do it. That's too much fun.
I would just, when I was on top of that mountain, I could barely walk, so that was an experience in and of itself. But the third one, I remember, and you can kind of see the chain of like how the first one was showing me the battle, and the second ceremony was really like the release of the grief. And then the third one, it was so much more personal. And again, it was about like where my heart was closed. And I remember praying and asking the medicine, like I just got shown so clearly that, as you can imagine, with my history of being controlled and being in cults where you like have to homogenize,
sure,
I had this very strong belief that I couldn't have intimacy and love unless I gave up my identity, unless I gave up my sovereignty.
Wow.
And so I remember sitting on the mountain and like just praying and asking the medicine, please show me that I can have love and freedom at the same time.
Beautiful. Yeah, babe.
And
that's deep. Yes, dear.
Well, and what I wanted to say was, it's 8 months later, and that is still happening. And this is why I have so much respect for these medicines and for these cultures, and I'm so profoundly grateful. Even though I got home from Peru to talk about a dive, I was like legitimately depressed for like a month. That's why I came to Hawaii. It was like I was in such a low place that I needed someone to just like get me out. so it taught me a lot, but I can now, like, I'm seeing that unwind in my life and seeing how I'm continuing to blossom open in areas that have been where I felt like I just couldn't get close to people, because if I get close, you're going to want me to change. You're going to want me to be like you. And I actually value my freedom more than anything else. And I wanted to share that. I mean, it's powerful for me, but I also think that's a lot of the struggle that's happening on our planet right now is we've got this battle, this system that's telling us to homogenize, that's telling us to assimilate. And so many of us are like giving up portions of ourselves to assimilate and to be loved and accepted and feel safe.
Right.
But when we talk about the legacy that we're exporting as a planet, I believe that it is, and I think I've heard Matthias say this as well, but I truly believe it has to do with the marriage of free will and love and unity. Like, if you think about it, unity is all being connected and together, and distorted, that looks like assimilation, but actual unity is the unity of all of the different pieces, just like our body. Like, I don't want my heart to look like my kidney.
No.
I want them both doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's true unity. And then you have free will over here. And like, this is I want to be together. I want to be together. And free will is, I want to be on my own. I want to be individual. I want to be myself. And I think we're actually here as a species to put these two together.
Yeah, well, let me help you. It's really like that, you know. There you go. Yes, darling, I quite agree. Yeah, I mean, love, you're, you know, sweetie, I just adore you, and I could talk all day and all night with you, and I hope that happens someday in our divine future here, because it's just always a feast. I mean, you're ending on such an important thing here, you know, and you have such great wisdom, you know, and you're carrying that so powerfully. Yeah, and you have so much to share with people. So I salute you and celebrate you, my dear sister, and I want to see you, you know, conquering the world and helping bring love into your life and into your heart, and know that they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, thank you so
You know,
much.
sure.
What an honor.
2 steps up, 1 step back. My pleasure. Yes. Brilliant. Well, shall we leave it there? Because that was just glorious.
Let's stick a pin in it.
Exactly. We'll put a pin in it. I love it. Well, Ireland sends you all its love for what it's worth.
Thank you. I can't wait to come back. I keep telling Tracy, our dear friend Tracy, I keep telling her, I just
Tracy O'Connor.
I can't believe it's already been 2 years.
Bless you. I would not argue with some time in Hawaii at this point after dark, wet Ireland for
I bet.
A good while. Yes. But sweetie, you've really landed on your feet, and you know, it's the best is yet to come. And this whole decade, of course, you know, this is where things change undeniably and irreversibly.
Yeah.
And you know, the paradox of the free will and you know, the unity or oneness, and finding, you know, the Vesica Pisces, you know, the sacred marriage. Absolutely. That's our destiny, you know. And the divine masculine will support the feminine in the women, and the divine feminine will support the masculine in the men, you know, the feminine in the men.
Amen.
So yeah, it's all there for us, and here we go. It's exciting times, Kyra. Bless you.
Yeah, we're on our way, guys. We really are.
Truly so. Well,
actually, on that note, let me just drop one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Super encouraging video with Pam Gregory and oh gosh, I messed it up because
No, you're all right. I know most of the Pam Gregory stuff.
There's a woman who channels angels, but I can't remember her first name.
Well, is this the one Hope somebody in Mount Shasta?
No, not Hope. There's another one. Okay. Just go to Pam Gregory's channel and look for someone who talks about channeling angels, because it's so encouraging. This woman has seen visions of this flood that I was talking about, and it's coming soon. And that video was like really particularly encouraging for the timeline that we're on. We're not as far away from release of this pressure as
Sure.
big as we are. So I
Sure.
just wanted to put that out there for people
Yeah, no,
to look at.
that's great. Yes, I mean, we could also talk about the great solar flash, and I just heard somebody, talk about how the energies are peaking next year, 2025. So, yeah, we're running for some big time right now, and it's getting closer every day.
Amen.
Beautiful, beautiful, honey.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. This has been so beautiful.
My pleasure, darling. All my love. Talk to you
Love
soon. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Okay, sweetheart. Peace and blessings. Do we want people to come and have some readings with you? Where do we find you?
Oh, yeah. I'm on Instagram as Kyra.Finley.creates.
Okay.
And there's a link in there to connect with me. I also have a Substack where I write every couple of weeks.
Good.
So I'd love for them to find me there. That would be.
Would you send me those links? Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Perfect. Okay. Anything else?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, sweetheart. Love you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you again, Kyra. God bless you.
Mwah.
Peace.